Hello and welcome to a new episode of Along B2B Revenue Heroes. I'm sitting here with Leo Wolters, go-to-market lead at deeploi, and we're going to talk a bit about how deeploi started working with Along, what they've seen in terms of benefits and success, and what they plan going forward with the implementation and future usage of our platform. We'll structure the whole call in different aspects. First of all, I'll give you a bit of an introduction on about what Along is. Leo's going to dive a bit deeper into what deeploi actually does, and then we go a bit further into how they actually work with Along, what Along has done for them, and how they optimize sales, as well as customer success processes on their end. Welcome, Leo. Very happy to be speaking with you. I'll give you the opportunity to speak a bit about deeper into who you are in a second. To start with, my name is Julian. I'm the co-founder of Along. We're building a deal execution and digital sales room platform. Customers use it to orchestrate sales processes, share content, get buyer intent signals that allow them to collaborate better with buyers along their journey and close them in a faster pace. That's it in a quick nutshell. And now over to you, Leo.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Leo, go-to-market lead at deeploi. At deeploi, we solve the IT pain for companies who don't have an IT administration team internally. So everything from setting up new laptops, buying them in onboarding cases, setting up accounts, IT support, basically everything you know from the corporate structure, we try to bring to SMEs. We do that now for 2 years with around 40 employees and 100 customers. And yeah, I joined at the very beginning on day one and have been building up go-to-market ever since.
So let's dive deep into our questions. What I'm primarily interested in is how you structured your sales processes before working with Along, before looking at a solution like ours. How was sales built up at deeploi before implementing Along?
Yeah, I think before we started talking to you guys, we had a pretty standard sales process, as probably every early stage startup has. A lot of the communication with our customers was done via email, ping pong back and forth, Q&A, sending a pitch deck here and there, some even Excel ROI calculations. So anything that you typically see, some phone calls here and there as well. I think we started thinking about a solution when we realized how many different processes we have in parallel. So with a small team back then, it was just Julian, our founder, and me working on the deals that we have, and we had quite a lot of inbound in the beginning. So handling everything at the same time was kind of a challenge, and keeping track of everything, even though our HubSpot has been kind of professionalized in those months as well. But that was a main issue for us. And then kind of I think your cold email back then caught our eye, and we wanted to see what's out there. And that's when we first started talking to you.
Sweet. I remember we spoke a lot about like email ping pong, which is obviously a problem that a lot of our customers have before they start working with us. So a bunch of different threads, things getting lost, they're scattered across different channels. Not only complicated for sellers, also complicated for buyers. Maybe you can dive a bit deeper into that problem specifically.
Yeah, I mean, with all this kind of email topic, I think the main issue was back then having a clear overview on where everyone stands in the process. We have a very clear kind of step-by-step process in our sales process, but between each step, you're always kind of trying to get the feedback, get the answers out, have very straightforward, direct conversations as you would if you had a one-on-one meeting. But since everything is kind of online now and going through the online channels, communicating with your prospect can be very difficult, especially with those that you maybe have to convince a bit harder than others. And they're a tool that can kind of bring you closer to your customer was super helpful. So we spent a lot of time drafting the perfect email, and then realized that our email didn't really get opened, or they never really got back to us, and we never understood why. That was kind of a topic that we were looking into. I think there are some other ideas that we had in mind in terms of, I don't know, how do we convey our message? How do we provide prospects with the content that we want them to see? And also, how do we build up the urgency and the kind of the mutual action plan from our side, so that the conversation is as quick and as direct as possible, but to standardize it, to centralize it, and to in the same sense provide the prospects with a new sales experience. I think that's what stood out.
Weird. I mean, you're also like, I mean, I've looked at a lot of different spaces that you created. So like, you're very, very good at basically, structuring the process in a way that it's easily understandable for buyers. And I think that's definitely a big benefit on your clothing as well. It leads me to my second question, primarily with regards to how you do sales today. We already like tapped a bit into that, but how are you now structuring things using Along?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, pretty much every prospect that we talk to that makes it through our initial discovery call, where we kind of check, is it the setup at our prospect something that we can cover, that we want to cover, is it a customer that we consider? All of those receive in a long space right after the call as a kind of a first summary and kind of I'd say dedicated landing page for each customer. We integrated it with HubSpot, so directly trigger it from HubSpot automatically. And then what we typically do is having a Q&A section in the long space at the very top. We have our offer in the very top. So if there's anything that we discuss during the calls, we summarize it there. We use our case studies a lot in the process. So whenever we talk to a prospect that is quite similar to another company that we work with, we try to get them hooked on our case studies, and then in the end, I think we use it even up until signing, and beyond. So you mentioned in the beginning we use it also for customer success. I think that's a use case that I didn't really anticipate, but maybe we can talk about it a bit later. But basically, for us, Along covers the entire process for the companies that we work with, from first discovery call to then feeling fully rolled out on our platform.
Sweet. Do you have any like best practices? I know that like most of our customers
Yeah,
you do create templates and then have different versions of working with them and working from
yeah,
them. What would you name as best practices that
yeah.
maybe also like became a bit clearer over time and overusing along for quite some while?
Yeah, I think one fun fact to mention, you had the big advantage when we were trying out Along for the first time. The very first prospect I tried out Along with directly signed 2 days later, because they were kind of interacting with us. I think they until now have the highest adoption and highest kind of activity rate of any customer ever. So in the beginning, I thought it's just super straightforward. We just send them a link, always the same one, and everyone will just act in the same way as this one prospect did in the very beginning. Of course, that's not the case. So different prospects use the space differently. Some are, I don't know, digital natives who don't have a problem with new things. Others are very much relying on email and phone calls. So depending on what type of person you have in front of you, and that's kind of my sense on a best practice from our side, how to boost adoption in this case. We try to mention the Along space in the first call as much as possible when we talk about next steps. So we sometimes even showed them in the first call how the space will look like, so that they know what they can expect. And we also warn them basically that we won't be sending a pitch deck as you would expect from other companies, or we won't be sending a huge summary via email, but you will have all the information in the Long space. And then within the space, it's very much individualized. So kind of we change the structure of each page. We include the summary that we record with our meeting recorder that we have in place. We have a custom roadmap for each customer. So what is the next step? When is it happening? What should be prepared until then? So it's very individualized, so that it feels more like a custom project management space for the company that we've talked to as well, and not just another landing page that we share. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. Specifically, learning different kind of like tactics once you work with customers, because I mean, we always tell our customers that as well, that you have a really good starting point when you make your buyers be familiar with the space and just share it in the first
Yeah,
call, because in the end it's quite intuitive. It's content, it's tasks, and once they understand that they don't really have to do anything because they're guided by sellers through that space, I think that's quite a big advantage
yeah.
compared to what you use in emails and stuff. What would you say has changed, like in the
Mm,
process in sales as a department, or in go to market in general, which
mm,
you're responsible for, since implementing a solution like Along? What are like maybe adjacent benefits that came through the implementation?
mm. I think to have the overview on each customer that we talk to with regards to next steps and the status quo. I think that for the sellers makes it a lot easier to keep track of the status on each deal. So next to kind of staging in deal stages in HubSpot, they can always look into a log and find a summary of what happened in the last couple of calls, and what is happening next. So I think in terms of management, organization, keeping track of everything, it makes it a lot easier. I think what makes the work for our sales reps a lot kind of more smooth and sometimes more fun is the direct interaction with a prospect kind of asynchronously, so that you have the chance to be in direct contact, like in a chat, basically, even though you're not in a call right now. That's something
Hmm.
that we get kind of feedback from our prospects, but also from the team, that they enjoy this very much. So kind of the direct interaction with the customer is something we didn't see before, except for in the meeting. And so, yeah, the speed of responses, I would say, is just, yeah, way better.
Okay, that's interesting. You also said that you are creating an along space basically for every prospect that made it past discovery, and I'm assuming not every deal is obviously closing in
Yeah.
the desired time frame. How are you working with our platform with these different customers? So the
Mm,
way I imagine is basically every single one of them has kind of like a link on their end, so you kind of
mhm,
build some little bridge to every single one of them.
mhm.
uh, how are you handling it from there? Are you waiting for engagement? Are you like re-engaging them by
Yeah.
reminding them? Are you, unlocking new content? How are you collaborating with buyers from there?
Yeah, all of the above, I would say. So just now I got a notification that a prospect that hasn't been talking to me for 2 months has visited the space. So sometimes it's active reminders. Hey, we have a new case study. Have a look at it. Hey, I don't know. Here's your custom offer. Might be interesting for you. Reminder in generally, I would say works well if you tie it to some valuable content.
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan at all of just following up, hey, have you read my email? And let's circle back, and whatever the slogans might be. But if you provide content, it's definitely increasing your chances. Not saying that all of them actually come back. But the other thing, I think we've never closed in a long space. And that is for me quite interesting because even if a deal is closed in HubSpot, I still keep the along space open just in case the person visits it in a year or in half a year. And we've actually had this happen, so that we saw, hey, interest is re-engaging, or the prospect is re-engaging, so there might be some interest again. And for me, that's the indication when I reach out. And so it's just a matter of timing. And for that, having the notification of when to reach out to someone is yeah, super cool.
It's quite interesting because when we started building along, we intended the spaces to be closed. That was our
Mhm.
original like thought, but we also realized that you actually like not only you as a customer, literally every customer like has them open all the time. And even when I think about my along spaces, I also don't think I've closed any of them because it's true. In the end, you have a relationship with your customer, and even if it's a closed loss,
Mhm.
and on our end, we don't consider that a closed loss. We consider that a not yet closed
Mhm.
one for us, so we basically say, okay, fair enough, maybe the opportunity isn't there right now, but it might be opening up again in the future because that prospect made it past discovery, so there
Yeah.
is technically some kind of value, some potential deal in there. And I think that's like having that little bridge through the along space and like working on the deal until it's closed, even if it takes some time. I think it's a very interesting approach, and something that we realized like customers were doing, even though the original intention was to say we have a space and we move it to like a finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah, also teaches you that like a lot of times, like obviously things that you think you should build and that you build sometimes are then also validated in a new and interesting way by the customers that you work with. Just like a
For
little
sure.
side story that's usually quite interesting. Okay, I think one of the points that I primarily wanted to focus on, and maybe also to wrap this up here, is the whole focus on you not only working with along for your sales process, but
Mhm.
also using it in customer success. And maybe also like some additional information on that. The original intention of Along was basically to provide a space that guides buyers not from a first intention to only a closing, but actually a first intention to receiving value. So at least post onboarding, where you literally say, I have to guide customers until they receive value, until they're at a point where they say, I spend money and I'm satisfied. So I know I've made the right decision, and not basically dropping off before where they, just signed your contract and all of a sudden there's friction and the handovers and the onboarding isn't what customers expect, and
Mm,
a lot of your churn might even come from there. So
mm,
very interesting that you are using this for customer success now as well, specifically since you said you didn't intend this in the first place when you started working with Along. So maybe you can explain that a bit more. How did
yeah.
you find out that this is good for customer success, and how do you work with it today?
Mm. Yeah, I think actually I kind of presented our collaboration with Along in a weekly in an all hands at some point, just because we do this every week. We share some new learnings, some new tools that we use, and remember our IT ops team who are responsible for the customer rollout, as we call it, reached out to me and asked whether it's possible to actually try it for our rollout process. So basically, if you look at our onboarding process, we always take a customer from an existing kind of IT setup and try to migrate them to our setup as smoothly as possible. And we are very proud of doing that without a lot of overhead and without interrupting the services, for example. But for that, a very smooth process is super important, and a very clear kind of step-by-step guide was crucial. And in the past, our team had done that through very detailed emails, so very, very long detailed emails and instructions, video links. So already pretty strong, I would say, and it worked. But then since our customers are engaging in the long, it made a lot of sense to just continue the process. And so what we do is once a customer is closed and we sign the contract, we create a new space, or actually our IT ops team creates a new space based on their templates, and sends it to the, as we call them, IT owners, so our customers, and that guides them through exactly what they have to do at what point in time, explains it in detail. I'm not sure if you've seen one of those spaces.
Hmm.
It looks very, I would say, colorful and easy. And what we've seen is that people really engage even more with the customer success part or the onboarding part than they do with our sales part. So comments are insanely high, activity is super high, and it gives us an indication whether a company is quick in the rollout. So as you mentioned, time to value is high, is low. So we very quickly come to a stage where they're fully rolled out. Or it's a company that isn't active in this space for a couple of days where we might have to push or call to get them there. So in the end, what it means for us, every day that we get customers on our platform quicker means some more revenue for us, since we
Hmm.
start kind of once customers are fully there. Um, so yeah, I mean, for us, it's a huge milestone to be able to onboard a customer within a couple of days, and kind of migrate their entire IT stack and all the employees into our platform, which other companies or competitors take months for.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's just like super interesting because you're not the only customer where we see this, and that you start with sales because it's a very obvious use case. You understand what buyers are doing, you have more visibility into their intentions, but then once you actually work with the mutual action plan and you start executing a deal based on a structure that that you follow, it makes a lot of sense to then also say, look, and this is what we're going to do in onboarding, even on steroids, to really
Yeah.
get you to what you paid for as soon as possible. So it's super interesting that you kind of like saw that use case and adopted it along the way. Um, I think that's it from my side. Thanks a lot for the time. Thanks a lot for all these insights. Thanks for being part of our Revenue Heroes episodes. If you are in the market to optimize your IT departments, obviously check out deeploi. Reach out to Leo and the team. They're doing an amazing job, and I'm sure we see them rise even further than we've already seen them rise so far. Thanks a lot. I wish you a good rest of your day today. And yeah, thanks, guys. We hope to see you very soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye.